Welcome in to First Things First. I'm Sarah Kustok, in for Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer, Cris Carter, and in for Nick Wright. That's Chris Canty, Chris Broussard. See?
Thanks for having you guys.
Welcome back.
You guys have been doing great the last couple of days.
Thrilled to have you here.
We got an exciting show.
Yeah, you came back with a lot of energy.
Right. Yeah, I got hot takes.
To go.
I got to take some of the spiciness from Nick to make sure we're consistent, sending it to the viewers. So I talked to him yesterday.
It apparently takes two of us to fill in for Nick.
I was thinking the same thing. I don't know if that adds up.
No. They were trying to rotate you guys, and I was like, no. I want both of them, the whole show and everything. I want them to.
I'm glad you didn't pick me off.
It's gonna be fun.
No, come on.
No way.
Come on, you know how we do. Let's go.
I know. We got a lot of good stuff to talk about. Let's start with the big news from yesterday. Baker Mayfield had some spicy comments about number 6 overall pick and new Giants quarterback Daniel Jones. In an interview with GQ, Baker said, quote, "I cannot believe the Giants took Daniel Jones. Blows my mind. Some people overthink it. That's where people go wrong. They forget you've got to win." Now, after these comments were released, Baker downplayed them on the gram, saying, quote, "This is not what I said, just so we're clear. I also said I was surprised I got drafted number 1, then was talking about the flaws in evaluating quarterbacks, where I brought up winning being important. Reporters and media will do anything to come up with clickbait story, heard nothing but good things, and wish nothing but the best for Daniel." So, see, what's your reaction to Baker's comments?
Well, I'm gonna help Baker out, because I've been around this league, and as a player in this league, I've made a number of mistakes. And one of the big mistakes that I made, I didn't even know what I was doing. It was actually just in the heat of battle. We were playing San Francisco, a big game. Jerry Rice went off like normal on a Monday night. But at the end of the game, we couldn't stop J.J. Stokes and Terrell Owens. And I had a good game. I think Jerry Rice and myself, we scored 6 touchdowns between the two of us. But my comments saying, we should have won that game because we had shut Jerry down. We can't allow these other guys to beat. I didn't even say their names. And Terrell Owens, to this day, does not like me for that fact. And it taught me a valuable lesson. Like, this is a really, really small fraternity. We're celebrating our 100th year of football in the NFL, and there's only been 25,000 men that have ever played this game. Only 12,000 played more than 4 years. So it's a really, really small thing. So what I have learned, and Baker is right in this, it is so hard to evaluate the quarterbacks. And we miss more on quarterbacks than anything else. Yes, he's right about that. But I'm going to help him. Don't evaluate players in the league while you're in the league. For one is because you don't know them. You don't know enough about watching tape and how people evaluate them. And if you were following scouting, you would have known that Daniel Jones was high on the Giants list. Now, did we think they should take him? No, we thought they should take Haskins first. But being shocked that they took him, no, because we heard leading up to the draft, they were in love with the kid. And take my advice. I learned from it. And I don't know if I've missed out on anything in life with T.O. not liking me or anything. That's up for debate. But it doesn't make sense. I could understand why he would take it personal. A Pro Bowl player, wide receiver, saying something derogatory he took that I was saying about him that he wasn't good. They were young then. He wasn't a Hall of Famer then.
A lot of players have said that's almost cliche now for players to say we can't let the other guys beat it. So I'm not sure you said anything wrong, especially when he wasn't T.O. at that point.
But
you know what I mean?
if you're making comments about another player in your league, you should be respect. First of all, it should be like out of respect because it's only a few guys who can make it. And then it should be, I think he's good or I think he's great. It shouldn't be anything else. When you hear Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, you can learn so much just about everything. Watch how they comment about the players. Everyone's great to them. Everyone's good to them. And that's the way it should be. It's hard enough doing what we do after playing, evaluating players. I know it's impossible to evaluate players while you're still playing the game, Chris.
Yes, CC, when you start talking about other people's players in a negative sense, it's usually bad practice and it comes back to bite you. So that's a good piece of advice that Baker Mayfield probably needs to take from you if he's watching our show. But yesterday when this news broke, when I heard the initial comments, it felt like it was Baker Mayfield's way of supporting his teammate Odell Beckham Jr. by being critical of what the Giants were doing. You know what I'm saying? And, of course, it's an easy target to talk about the Giants taking Daniel Jones at number 6. It was a move that surprised a lot of media members. It surprised a lot of people around the National Football League. It was one of those things where, okay, this is a little hard for us to understand when the team is talking about competing and trying to be better than they were the previous 2 seasons. And then, of course, you make the decision to trade Odell Beckham Jr. to Cleveland. Like, it's just one of those things that OBJ still feels a way about. And then, of course, Baker Mayfield understanding that, knowing that he's going to need Odell Beckham Jr. this season, this was his way to come out and have his back. But then, when he came out with that retraction of sorts on social media, that's the part of it that I quite didn't understand, because Baker Mayfield, one thing that we can say about him, he's been himself unapologetically since he's been in the public eye, since he took over the starting job as the quarterback of Oklahoma. So that's why I'm a little bit confused about him putting that statement out there on social media after the GQ article wrote. Because, I mean, I don't think we're in a position where we question the reporter from GQ and whether or not that's actual Baker Mayfield's words. I think that's exactly what he said. But I think once Baker saw the context that it was in within the article, that's what he took offense to. It came out a little harsh, and I think that's one of the things that kind of surprised a lot of folks, which is why Baker tried to walk it back a little bit.
The last sentence you quoted Baker is saying, you got to win. This is what I'll say to him. You better win. I mean, when you come out talking like this, we know all the things he's done in the past. But now you start talking like this, you better win. If he wins, and I agree with you guys, at some point it may come back to haunt him. But if he wins, in a lot of the public's eyes, they'll see him as, oh, he broke the mold. That's just who he is. He's brash. He's showing you can win like that and, you know, being a quarterback and speaking your mind. And I get why he did it, or, you know, just because that's what he's always done. That's what's worked for him. This is a guy that was ranked 160th in Texas as a high school senior, okay?
Yeah.
This is a guy that was a walk-on at Texas Tech, a walk-on at Oklahoma. Too short to be in the NFL, some people say.
Him and his dad almost got into a fist fight because his dad told him he needs to go to a certain school, and Baker was like, no, I need to go to another school, and that interaction there. So, yes.
Right. So that he looks at it like, I've always been bucking the trends. I've always been different, and it's worked for me. And until he's humbled, until someone proves him differently, he's probably going to be this way. And the fact is, he's just straight up wrong. I mean, number one, we've seen Daniel Jones look pretty good in preseason. Yeah. Number two, Daniel Jones was 17 and 19 at Duke. Pat Mahomes was 13 and 16 at Texas Tech. You know, John Elway, 15 and 18 at Stanford. So guys have shown that if they didn't win in college, that doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to win in the NFL.
Well, Baker Mayfield, he was a winner at the collegiate level, but now as he enters this season, what do you need to see out of Baker, and what are your expectations for what he could be here with the Browns?
Well, for one, when you start making comments like this, and Canty and I were talking this morning, and we probably came up with the figure between 3 to 5 years you start to understand the league. And so you start to understand what people are trying to do, or start to understand the characteristics of your position and the best way to try to have success in your career. For Baker Mayfield, he has to realize he's got great weapons around him. He has to make sure they protect that offensive line. If you don't talk about the way they can have a bad season, that offensive line not play to the way they played last year, them start throwing the ball 50 times a game, trying to please all their wide receivers and get away from Chubb and Hunt when he comes back running the football. So for me, it's about leadership. He can flat out throw the football. He has amazing timing. He can throw any throw on the field. He has a great feel for the game. He has unusual leadership skills, like being vocal and like unusual. I haven't seen many college quarterbacks. Go back and watch some of the YouTube videos. Baker Mayfield, and they got rap music on, and Baker's dancing. They got these little chants, and the whole team is involved. And I've seen it in the Cleveland locker room last year. I covered them doing a game. So continuing being the type of leader because I think the stats will be there. Because he's got weapons. He got a tight end. He got 3 receivers at least. He got 2 running backs, and the offensive line was good. And I believe that Freddie Kitchens is an NFL head coach. So for me, that day-to-day, how I'm going to lead these guys, and the critical moment's going to be, What does he do when they have a bad month? I know what Brady do. I know what Rodgers do. I know what the Drew Brees. I know what they do. Matty Ice. What is Baker Mayfield going to do? Because you're going to have a bad month. What type of leader is he going to be? Because he's always going to be a leader. Now, is he going to be pulling for good or pulling the team in a negative spot?
And that's the one thing that we have to see, and I think that's the area where he's going to have to grow. One thing that we all can't deny is that Baker Mayfield has been an agent of change for the Cleveland Browns. See, I came in the Friday after he came in the second half of that Thursday night game against the Jets, and we were just talking about how the team played with a different energy in that second half and on into the later parts of that game, and Baker Mayfield was able to come up with the win. That was their first win of the season. It ends up being a part of 7 wins that Baker Mayfield had in his rookie campaign. So, I mean, when you take into consideration that this was a franchise that had a grand total of 1 win in the 2 seasons prior to Baker Mayfield getting there, you can understand why people are so optimistic about what's going on with the Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield is a leader. It's no doubt that those guys respond to him in the locker room, but he's just got to understand the platform that he has and understand how he needs to use it in order to be effective and have his team in position where they can be consistently competitive.
Also, Sheldon Richardson, I saw a soundbite of him. He had said where he had talked to Baker about some of the comments that Baker had made about Duke Johnson. Right. So for me, you have to realize, as a football team, you rally around your players, even if they're right, even if they're wrong. So don't think in that locker room there's going to be a problem with Baker Mayfield. But behind the scenes, they have had veterans who have been trying to help him with little things like that.
All right, going to be interesting to watch. Coming up, is Jerry Jones playing with fire with his recent comments about Zeke? That's next on FS1, and you can always check us out on the Fox Sports channel on Sirius XM. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, it's Nick Wright here to tell you a bit about 23andMe. Sure, DNA testing can tell you about where your ancestors are from, but did you know it could also give you a lot of genetic information about your health and traits? Understand more about yourself today and inform how you live your life going forward. 23andMe allows you to better understand your health background. You can learn about many health conditions, such as harmful blood clots. The F2, F5 genes help you stop bleeding if you get hurt. Certain versions of the F2, F5 genes can also increase the risk for harmful blood clots. You can also learn about hereditary breast and ovarian cancer. The BRCA genes repair damaged DNA that could otherwise lead to cancer. Certain versions of these genes can increase the risk for developing breast, ovarian, prostate, and other cancers. Both men and women can be affected. 23andMe reports do not diagnose disease or describe overall likelihood of developing any disease. 23andMe tests selected genetic variants only. Visit 23andme.com/FTF for important test information. Order your health and ancestry kit at 23andme.com/FTF, and you can meet your genes in over 125 personalized genetic reports. That's the number 23andme.com/FTF.
All right, we'll get to Jerry Jones and the Cowboys in a second, but first, Braves, Marlins. Adani Echeverria makes a diving stop. That's what, Canty, I should have had you read the baseball stuff. Throws to first. Nice.
That was a heck of a play right there, man. The Braves are going to be one of those teams that's going to make some noise in the National League when we get to October.
Oh, yeah.
Really good team.
Cleveland Browns making headlines, but also making plays. Baker Mayfield makes a throw over the middle, picked off, though, by J.T. Hassel.
I don't know if this one's complete here. Did it touch the ground?
I think it touched the
ground. I think the ball did, but I think the ball moved a little bit.
All right, staying in Ohio, Hilliard Bradley High School, Tayshawn Mayfield, great one-handed catch.
Come on, Tayshawn.
It's a great catch.
Oh, yeah, he went up there and got that one now.
Yeah, I saw yesterday we had all this debate about the gloves and the technology. Do y'all think all these kids can catch like that?
That's why I said, what's that? See, that's a nice catch, but
come on,
is he Odell Beckham?
Nah, that's a nice catch right there. You can't take
That's a nice catch. That technology's helping out.
He needs to be in the NFL right now.
Oh, that's a good catch.
If that's not a glove helping him out.
All right, on to the Cowboys. After rookie running back Tony Pollard had a strong preseason showing, Jerry Jones joked around by saying, Zeke who? To media members. Zeke and his agent reportedly did not take too kindly to this. Here's what Jerry had to say when asked about Zeke feeling disrespected.
I've earned the right with Zeke to joke. Period.
Right.
I've earned it.
So, have you guys had any conversations since then at all?
No. But let me be real clear about it. I've earned that right to joke.
All right, see, so is Jerry right that he earned the right to joke
I
about
do
Zeke?
know this in conversating with a lot of people in my life. Anytime I was in a conversation and they said something and said period, they weren't expecting me to say anything afterwards. Period. That's it. Right. Now, Jerry, I got a lot of respect for Jerry. And the truth of the matter is, he's been nothing but a fan of Ezekiel Elliott before he even drafted him. When they spent that number 4 pick on him, people at that time still felt like the league, the running backs aren't worth that. They are not worth that high of a draft pick. Jerry said when you find someone special, watch him rush for over 250 yards against Alabama so he can play for my Cowboys. All the off-field stuff. Remember all the investigation. All along, Jerry was headstrong. Nothing's going to happen to Ezekiel Elliott. And I had to tell him, hey, he's going to get suspended. He's going to miss some time based on the information that I had, that based on the evidence that he was going to spend some time on the sideline. Jerry supported him. This latest incident, he supported him. So, yes, Jerry has earned that, not just in Ezekiel, but what he's done with other players who had situations issue. Jerry Jones is one of the greatest owners that's ever owned any type of professional team. So in handling this Zeke situation, Zeke is trying to reset the market. Jerry realized this can be a competitive team for the next 2 to 4 years. I'm not going to blow it by blowing up the salary cap the way I did a number of years ago. We just got it where we can manage it. They got about $25 million before they signed their linebacker. They got $75 million for next year. The pie is only so big. So for me, yes, Jerry, as a Hall of Famer, man, he's one of the best ever. And there's no owner. Tell me an owner that supported their players in good or in bad better than Jerry. And I know Canty, being drafted by the Cowboys, would have similar stories as far as Jerry and what he's done for players in their lives.
Yeah, CC, I can't think of another owner in sports that supports their players like Jerry Jones does, especially when it comes to Ezekiel Elliott, all the off-field incidents that he's been involved in, the domestic violence allegations stemming from back with his girlfriend in Ohio State, the incident that he had on St. Patrick's Day, pulling a woman's top up, of course, this latest incident in Vegas at the music festival. Like, it's just been issue after issue in terms of dealing with the problems with Ezekiel Elliott's immaturity, and Jerry Jones has supported him at every turn, including being willing to go to bat for him against the other owners and the commissioner, Roger Goodell. You remember a couple of years ago when they were trying to work out the contract extension for Roger Goodell, Jerry Jones was the one that was front and center and saying, hold up, wait a minute, let's pump the brakes on this because of how Roger Goodell was treating Ezekiel Elliott. After the NFL did their investigation of the Ohio State situation, remember the investigator for the NFL, Kia Roberts, she didn't recommend a suspension for Ezekiel Elliott. They went ahead and suspended him anyway. And Jerry was outraged, okay? And so he wanted to make those feelings felt by the rest of the people in the National Football League. But that's him supporting his player. That's him having his back. And so in order to return the favor, Ezekiel Elliott decides to hold out. I can understand why Jerry Jones feels, in a way, disrespected just because he's tried to support Ezekiel Elliott publicly the last few years.
I think a lot of people, when you're that wealthy, you feel like you got the right to do whatever you want and say whatever you want. So I think that's part of it, too. But I do agree with you guys. It's not only, as you mentioned, CC, it's not just Ezekiel who he's supported. I mean, he's got this history of supporting players, you know, taking care of them financially, but also when they run afoul of the law or whatever it may be, he's always been there to support him. So he is definitely right in that. But here's the thing. Here's the problem I see with it, that it was public. And I think a lot of people understand it was a joke. I think there was a little message there for Zeke. But the fact that it was done publicly, Zeke, I think, no matter how cocksure you appear, in a holdout, you're a bit fragile because you know you don't have your name on that dotted line. You want that money. You know you could spend your prime years, get used up, and not get paid. You saw what happened with DeMarco Murray. So I think he's fragile, and when it's said publicly, the media sometimes blows it out of proportion. Some media guys, rather than looking at it as a joke, they will, really take it. Oh, he really thinks Tony Pollard could potentially replace Zeke, or, and it takes on a life of its own, and sometimes takes on a meaning that the person that said it, Jerry Jones in this case, never even meant for it to be. He may have 100% meant for it as a joke. I think there was a little something in there, but I'm not going to make too big of a deal out of it. However, I get why Zeke still is a little bit bothered, because he's in a sensitive position right now.
See, I asked these two this yesterday, but right now, considering the regular season has not started yet, who has the leverage? Is it the Cowboys or is it Zeke?
It's always the Cowboys until you start the season. He's got 2 years left on his contract, because the truth of the matter is Jerry Jones is going to pay him. But Jerry is telling him, you're not going to put no gun to my head. You're not getting ready to force me, because Zeke is in a respect type of mode. Because he knows Dak is getting ready to get twice as much money as him, and even though Jerry thinks Zeke is a better player, that's hard to stomach. And with him saying the things that he said, I could see why Zeke and his agent, because they were probably heard the comments together, why they would take exception to it. But until they start the games, man, it's the Cowboys. But once you start playing for real, and your championship hopes are playing at home and winning your division, you lose that first game, all right? The defensive line's got problems. Man, we're talking about Zeke and Dak and all these things. That defensive line is a problem. They don't have a starting 4 right now. If we had to start and play a game right now. So how are they going to be against one of the better runners that we have in the league against the Giants opening day? That could really swing it in Zeke's favor then. But until you start playing these games, the owner, the Cowboys, they are in the catbird seat right now.
Yeah, they have all the leverage because they're the ones that's going to decide to cut the check. But the fact of the matter is, Jerry Jones is the owner of the team. So Zeke Elliott can take it as a sign of disrespect that Jerry Jones is making that jump. But the fact of the matter is, but just because he's not taking the negotiations or your holdout as seriously as you want him to, doesn't mean that he doesn't have the right to make those comments publicly. I mean, ultimately, Jerry Jones is going to probably make him the highest paid running back in the National Football League. He is the best player on that team. But I think that Jerry Jones is also publicly trying to send a message that this is not how he wants players to handle contract negotiations. This ain't how we want to do things here with Dallas. And he said it yesterday in that soundbite after the fact that he said he earned the right to joke. He said nothing will be bigger than the team. The individual's needs don't come before the team's needs. Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones are publicly sending a message to Ezekiel Elliott that this is not how we're going to do things at the Dallas Cowboys. Not this season and not into the future.
Well, and I think that's why you've heard the comments about Dak are so glowing. He deserves to be a top-tier quarterback as far as salary, even though we know he's not a top-tier quarterback. And then with Zeke, it's been just the opposite. Even yesterday after they signed Jalen Smith, the pie is smaller now. Make no doubt about it. He said a few things. Jalen understood that, we got a lot of good young players and we have to all take a little bit of a haircut, I'm paraphrasing, to get all of us under that cap. So he's sending messages to Zeke. Just like you said, if Zeke was still, demanding or wanting a new contract but was in camp, I don't think Jerry would be talking about it the way he is right now. And he's upset because he feels disrespected too. Because like you said, all I've done for you, the way I've backed you up, and this is how I get repaid. You got 2 years left, a franchise tag. We could have 3 years of control as far as your career, and this is how you repay me. That's how you feel.
And you mentioned some things as far as I know in the substance abuse field, Jerry has walked hand in hand with a number, Randy Gregory. Me, Jerry, Randy Gregory, last year, man, we had a lot of knockdown dragouts, and Jerry is behind and supporting his players like no other owner in sports. So he has earned that right, Chris.
All right, coming up, is AB really all in with the Raiders? We'll discuss that next on First Things First.
I'm going to call God and see.
Oh, this is why we need you back.
Rothy's are the everyday flats for life on the go. They're stylish, comfortable, and they go with everything from yoga pants to dresses and skirts. They've quickly become a must-loved, gotta-have-them brand thanks to their wide range of colors and patterns, with new ones launching constantly. And there's a zero break-in period. Since Rothy's are crafted using 3D knitting techniques and hand assembly, their seamless design means right out-of-the-box comfort. Best of all, they're made from recycled plastic water bottles. That's right. Over 25 million water bottles have been diverted from landfills to make these gorgeous and sustainable shoes. Another major bonus, they're fully machine washable, so your pair will be fresh and ready every laundry day. Plus, Rothy's always come with free shipping and free returns and exchanges. There is no risk and no reason not to try. You'll quickly discover why BuzzFeed called them their forever shoes. Check out all the amazing styles available right now at rothys.com/cadence. Comfort, style, sustainability, these are the shoes you've been waiting for. Head to rothys.com. That's ROTHYS.com/cadence today.
All right, time for us to go viral. Yesterday, we showed you this amazing one-handed, through-the-legs catch by Odell Beckham. And Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe took to Undisputed to discuss the only other person he believes could make this snag. Take a listen.
It's impressive. I mean, you don't normally see guys, but these guys have gotten very good in the equipment with the tactified glove. I believe there's only one guy that could make that catch, and he could probably do it in the game, is Cris Carter. I don't care what anybody says. He has the best hands that I've ever seen on a player, past or present. And that was without the tactified gloves.
See, you took notice, tweeting, "Preach to the congregation, Uncle Shay, pour yourself a glass of cognac."
I was going to say pour us a glass, but it's been almost 29 years since I had one. But he know that's the drink of choice. Very complimentary. Probably the best compliment I've ever had about my career is my ability to be able to catch the football. Yes, I worked on it very, very hard, but God bless me. My hands are awful large, my fingers are awful strong, and I enjoyed catching it and was taught by a lot of good people how to catch it. So tremendous compliment, tremendous compliment.
Well, and we had Torrey Holt yesterday singing your praises.
Oh, that's BYU right there. That's in the Citrus Bowl in Orlando. I remember coming back, I told the dude on the sideline, "Oh, man, I'm the best there ever is. I'm better than what they got in the NFL." The BYU coaches looked at me like I was crazy. Yeah, they looked at me like I was crazy.
But you wasn't
the
wrong,
quarterback was he told me he was trying to throw it away.
CC, I know you said you passed the torch to Larry Fitzgerald. Who's next on deck for the best hands in the NFL?
Oh, DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins is on another planet. Like, if Larry still wasn't in the league, we don't give him enough recognition. Now he's got a quarterback, but even before Deshaun took over there, he's got amazing hands. Go to YouTube, watch some of his catches back from college. He started working on the jugs machine, so tremendous respect for Nuke there with the Houston Texans.
I love seeing those old highlights. All right, time for some stories to start your morning.
That
yesterday
thing was in black and white, man. Could y'all give me some HD or something?
It's not that old.
Come on, Fox.
Yesterday, the Cowboys signed linebacker Jalen Smith to a 5-year, $64 million extension with $35.5 million guaranteed. This will make Smith the third highest paid middle linebacker behind C.J. Mosley and Bobby Wagner. Canty, what did you make of this deal?
Well, first of all, I'm happy for Jalen Smith. Tough end to his collegiate career, having a dislocated knee, had to sit out his entire rookie year, but then he bounced back. And the way that he's played the last 2 seasons, I mean, the Cowboys arguably have the best off-the-ball linebacker tandem with Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith in the National Football League. So it's an outstanding get for the Dallas Cowboys to keep those two guys together for the foreseeable future. But I'm happy for Jalen Smith. This is a proud moment for him and his family.
And it's finally the payday. He lost millions of dollars with that injury in that Alabama game. It wasn't only the knee. He ended up getting nerve damage down the foot where his foot was dropping. First year played with the brace. Tremendous reward for a great football player.
Yesterday, Demaryius Thomas was activated from the PUP list after returning to practice with the Patriots. Last season, Thomas tore his Achilles, but he is a 4-time Pro Bowler. So, see, what can a healthy Thomas do for the Patriots offense?
Playing with the best quarterback ever. Now, they are a team that needs wide receivers. And also, watch Emmanuel Sanders. He tore his Achilles last year in Denver. He was back playing this weekend.
He looked good on Monday night, too.
With the doctors and with technology, guys will start bouncing back from Achilles injuries. Kevin Durant should be able to watch this and be like, wow, I know if they can play football. Basketball is a lot easier on your Achilles than football. So, yes, they could utilize his big body, especially quick slants, cross the middle, help ease that burden off the rookie, who I don't believe is ready to be a top receiver yet.
No question. They're going to be their receiving core is looking great. He's going to be a great possession receiver for them.
Odell Beckham had some interesting comments to Sports Illustrated about his trade from the Giants in March. He believes the G-men traded him to the Cleveland Browns to spite him, saying, quote, "This is personal. They sent me here to die." Broussard, what's your reaction to Odell's comments?
Is it possible they said, look, this is a guy that loves the limelight, loves the spotlight, the big city. Let's send him to tiny Cleveland? That's possible. But when I look at it from a football standpoint, I think they did him a huge favor. They saw that the Browns, all the potential they had. They saw what Baker Mayfield did. They saw the other weapons there that'll open things up and have less attention paid to Odell as far as the defense. So they really put him in a good position to shine on the football field. And maybe even personally. Like maybe you could argue the lack of distractions in Cleveland could be beneficial for his career. So I really can't buy that they did this to spite him. I think it could help him.
Yeah, I don't think that the Giants did this to spite Odell Beckham Jr. I think Dave Gettleman took the best deal that was available. Now, I know Odell said that there might have been some other deals out there and they took a lesser deal, but I think he's referring to not this past offseason, but the offseason from 2 seasons ago when you had a couple of teams out on the West Coast that were looking for wide receivers. So and listening to Odell Beckham Jr.'s comments, I know that Cleveland might not be his preferred destination, but, I mean, that's ultimately the decision that the Giants had to come to. They had to do what's in the best interest of their team, and at that point, they decided that it was going to be addition by subtraction as far as it goes with OBJ.
Yeah, I think it's a little naive to think that Dave Gettleman was sitting around thinking, okay, how can I send this kid to a bad spot, compared to how can I fetch the highest draft pick at the time? Because they had these discussions for a long time, all right? It wasn't like just all of a sudden he woke up one day. And I believe because he did make a trade with Olivier Vernon before the OBJ trade. So he did have a rapport with Cleveland as far as talking about a potential deal. And to me, in this league, unless they're not going to trade you in your division. They try not to trade you in the same conference. But it's about who you know and who you like to do business with. That's why Belichick traded Garoppolo to San Francisco because of Shanahan. He called Shanahan about Garoppolo because he's done business with him before and he likes the Shanahan family. So for me in the league, it's about where can I get that best deal? And they did. They got a good deal. They wasn't trying to send him off. And actually, where they sent him is a great spot for him because he can focus, and they have a great quarterback and supporting cast.
Yeah, with that being said, I mean, Canty, at what point for OBJ to thrive in Cleveland does he need to get past being with the Giants and what's happened to this point of his career and just focus on what lays ahead of him here with the Browns?
Well, I think the closer we get to the regular season, the better it'll be for OBJ and that Cleveland Browns team because, I mean, once you start playing the football games, that allows you to lock in. OBJ is a player that loves the spotlight, and the Cleveland Browns are going to be a team of interest this year. They've got a ton of great storylines with that team, and so I think once we get to the games and they start to mean something, I think that's when we'll start to see OBJ put kind of that Giants chapter of his career behind him. Hopefully that's what happens. I know that Baker Mayfield and John Dorsey and Freddie Kitchens are hoping that that's going to be the case. But, I mean, he's got to, at some point, move on. The Giants have decided they're going to move on. They're going to do what's in their best interest. He needs to do what's in his individual best interest, which is getting back to the business of being one of the best receivers in the National Football League.
Canty, I disagree with you. Just like in Philadelphia, even though it was my fault I left Philadelphia and Buddy Ryan cut me, I always use that as fuel. And I just believe OBJ is the kind of guy, and like athletes, they're going to always try to get that edge. And I think this is going to be one of the things that he's going to reach back for as if it was the Giants' fault. He's going to forget about all the stuff that he did in leading to them letting him go. So I do believe he'll try to hang on to this little chip and have it on his shoulder like we see a lot of other athletes do.
And I think that he will, but what I'm saying is from a public standpoint and commenting about it in articles and in the media, I think that part of it he's got to let go because he's got to get to the business of being about the Cleveland Browns and trying to get this team to achieve their goals this season.
That would be nice, but I don't think that's his personality. I think you're right. It's going to be motivation for him. And I could see, let's say week 10 or 12 or whatever, if the Browns are rolling and the Giants are struggling, I can definitely see him taking a jab at the Giants and saying, hey, this is what I was talking about. They weren't using me the right way. And, you know, I still think he's going to talk more about the Giants throughout this season, at least, if not later in his career.
All right, on to Antonio Brown. Could the drama possibly be a thing of the past? AB returned to practice with a new certified helmet, and John Gruden says there's no more need to worry.
It's a certified helmet, Vic, so he's all in, ready to go. That's my understanding, and really happy to have him out here. He's a great player. He's shown great retention of what we're doing. He didn't miss the off-season program. He's been here and out of here in meetings, and it's just good to have him back. But he's in great shape. He's running hard and running good routes.
All right, C, are you buying what John Gruden is saying, that AB is all in now?
No, because 2 days ago, the general manager, Mike Mayock, and I'm pulling for Mike Mayock. Guys like him, guy came from TV, he's worked his butt off, and now he's got an opportunity to have the first big acquisition to blow up in their face. No, man, I'm cheering for him. And he said, no, now is the time to find out if he's all in or not. Not when I gave him, how much guaranteed money did I give him?
$30 million guaranteed.
So I give you $30 million, and then I have to ponder the question several months later, are you all in or not? So, no, I believe the little kid realized that he couldn't destroy the playground. So he's like, okay, all right, let me try to figure out another way. He loves football. So the threat of him not playing, I didn't think that was a threat at all. But utilizing that helmet, the bottom of the story is, man, he don't think the helmet looks good on him. All right? It's not with technology. I'm just going to tell you guys. All right? Behind the scenes to the NFL, it's not the technology. It's not that I'm perfect. It's not the vision, because the new helmets most of the helmets, they have better vision than the old helmets.
Right.
It's about, it don't look good on them.
They're a little bigger, right?
They are a little bigger. Drew Brees talked about, makes your head look a little moonshot and everything. But Drew Brees said, if it's safer, then I'm going to utilize it. So it's not about that. So there will be other things. He is a phenomenal football player, but right now he is the #1 diva in all the sports, man, and he is loving it. He likes it, like and every day he breathes it. Now he's a great football player, and I'm hoping that we're able to talk about that. But to think that, oh, this is over with. Oh, no. This is just getting started.
No, it's not over with, because he filed another grievance earlier this week, and I think he's got the hearing for that on Friday, so we'll see how that works out. So clearly AB hasn't moved past it, even though he's back on the practice field. I just think this is one of those things that we need to put to bed sooner rather than later. And CC, the point you made about what they did in terms of committing to him, making the trade, giving the Steelers a 3rd-round pick and a 5th-round pick, and giving him the contract extension, with him being on the other side of 30, this is not one of those questions that you would want to be asking, whether he's all in or all out on the eve of the regular season kicking off. To me, this is just awful timing. This is a bad look on AB, and this is presenting a distraction for a relatively young ball club that can't afford it when you have a new head coach and a new general manager trying to establish a new identity.
Look, I get what Gruden was doing. It obviously looked very contradictory to what Mike Mayock was saying the other day. But it was some damage control. You know, it was everything's okay. You know, we're back to normal. He said the right things, even though he was lying. But AB is not all in. He wasn't all in last year in Pittsburgh when they had a chance to do some things. Yeah. Right? We saw week 17 what happened. So if he wasn't all in then there's no way he's going to be all in now. And, Chris, to your point, I think, remember, we began to see stories about the Raiders sending the 5-day letter. I think they leaked that because I think they wanted to get the message out to him and let him know, look, we're not playing around anymore. If you're not here, you're not going to be playing football. And more importantly, you're not going to get $29 million of the $30 we guaranteed you. And that's why he's back in camp.
See, at this point, do you think the Raiders still believe that AB is worth these distractions?
Well, this is the thing. He's worth it because of a couple things. Number one, they need to develop a quarterback. I heard you yesterday on the show and everything. That was great. You are so right. The first investment was get him a top-flight receiver, just like Dallas did with Amari Cooper, to find out about Dak. And you need a face, you need a vibe, you need something with a heartbeat going to Las Vegas. And that's what that dude and John Gruden can do. Chucky, all the sound bites, all that stuff, and AB, because he's a fabulous player. What I'm concerned about is the culture. Right. Because you talk about taking over. He's got a 10-year deal in John Gruden. Whatever you pay your money on is what the guys in the locker room are going to accept. When you go out and you sign Trent Brown, make him throw all that money to him, and he is not a proven star, and he's got to play right tackle because he is not going to ever be a great left tackle. So he comes from Belichick. So what he saw with Belichick, how you think this sat with him? Now I'm on the Raiders, and we got A.B. here. What about their first-round picks? The first pick, Colin Farrell, the kid from Clemson. Oh, Dabo Swinney. So he's been with Dabo Swinney for 3 or 4 years. They got the other receiver, Renfro, in the 5th round from Clemson also. First-round pick running back from Alabama. So I got Dabo Swinney. I got Nick Saban. I got these kids coming into my locker room, and I got this guy who's acting crazy. It's hard to change a culture. Money doesn't change people. But what it does is it makes you bigger what you already are. What was in Pittsburgh with A.B., the Raiders made it bigger. Put it on Hard Knocks, you give it $30 million, that baby just starts to grow up. It's going to be a grown man. And you see the way, this is just the beginning. Oh, he's got some other stunts and everything up his sleeve for the rest of his career there, but was it worth it? I need to evaluate that quarterback, and I need to be able to move to Vegas, and I'm okay with that because he gives me that pop that I don't have.
I couldn't agree more. I've been talking about that the last few days. It's the culture. And I think the problems are just going to get worse because when he gets on that field, he's going to play well.
Oh, no, he's good.
Play well. And then it's gonna get worse. We might not hear about it. We might hear about it. We might not. But in that building, it's probably going to be worse. And all the guys you mentioned, they're going to be watching it, and it could really hurt that culture.
All right, coming up, are the Browns putting a bullseye on their back? We hear from their head coach. That's ahead on First Things First. I'm Sarah Kustak, and before the show moves along, here's a quick word from our friends over at the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. The NFL season is back, and that means one thing. It's fantasy football time. Dominate your league by subscribing to the #1 fantasy football podcast on the planet, the Fantasy Footballers. Fantasy Footballers podcast is the most downloaded fantasy football podcast for a reason. It has the most accurate rankings as measured by fantasy pros, so you have a leg up on your competition. The Fantasy Footballers was the winner of iHeartRadio's Best Sports Podcast and have over 20 industry awards since 2015. Simply put, these guys can help you win your league, and you'll be entertained in the process. Subscribe right now to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever you listen to podcasts. You can also visit them on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com. Subscribe now and dominate your fantasy football league. We are back here on First Things First, and we're talking Kyler Murray. Kyler struggled mightily in week 2 of the preseason, completing just 2 of his 8 passes, and he was sacked twice. However, head coach Kliff Kingsbury still optimistic, saying, quote, "We're trying to keep it close to the vest. Obviously, we're trying to get our players used to playing with each other, but it's interesting for me because this is the NFL, and I've never called a game in my life where I wasn't in straight attack mode. Kyler and I are adjusting to that." See, what do you make of Kingsbury's strategy so far this preseason?
It's a bunch of lies. It's a bunch of lies. Man, you need to stop that, man, because you can only change so much of your offense. Now, there are some sexier things that you can do, attacking people down the field. There's different route combinations, specifically defenses. If they're playing cover 8, I can do this. If they play cover 2, I can do this. But let me tell you what you can't hide. I can't block them dudes up there. All right? So when they were going out looking for, yes, he might be a generational talent. I believe his throwing ability is elite. I believe his elusive ability and his ability, awareness in the pocket is elite. But will we see it? Because in this league, if you cannot protect your quarterback, there is no quarterback. I saw Troy Aikman his first year with the Dallas Cowboys when they couldn't protect him, and it has been consistent no matter what decade or era you are in. If you got a young quarterback and you allow him to get hit, he will not perform near the level that he was supposed to, and most of them are a shell of themselves and get punch drunk, and their career is shattered as far as them being a starting quarterback. So, yeah, you might have held out some nice routes, some combinations, but let me tell you what you didn't hold out. That line that you got is highly questionable. You didn't spend enough resources. You spent those resources other ways. That line, how much better did it get to be able to protect a guy? I don't think it got good enough, and you can't hide protections. All right, when you got running backs going the wrong way, 2 linemen blocking the same guy, you're hiding that? You're hiding that from me? I've been able to see enough football, Kliff. You can't put that one past on me. They are going to struggle. I do believe Kyler is special, though.
Yeah, preseason or not, I mean, I've never seen an operation not being able to get in and out of the huddle and then everybody be on the same page as far as the cadence is concerned. Like, that's the part of it I don't understand when I listen to Kliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray talk. There's no excuse for how they looked in the second preseason game against the Oakland Raiders. And then when you put on top of that the fact that the offensive line didn't look good, the fact that they weren't on the same page, the fact that the Oakland Raiders did have free runners at the quarterback, that to me is an issue. I understand Kingsbury not wanting to put certain things on tape, but I don't understand it when the head coach comes out and says, my team wasn't in attack mode. I wasn't calling plays for my guys to be aggressive. And no matter how vanilla your systems are in the preseason, every coach that I've played for wants you to go out there and play fast. And then listening to that soundbite from Kliff Kingsbury, it doesn't sound like that was his team's overall mentality. So I have serious questions about whether or not Kliff Kingsbury is going to be a good head coach in the National Football League. Keep in mind, he just got fired at Texas Tech. He came from being the offensive coordinator at Southern Cal to taking the head coaching job at the Arizona Cardinals. So the jury is still out on whether or not he's going to be an effective coach. And then, of course, there are serious questions about will this air raid philosophy be successful in the NFL. So, I mean, it hasn't looked good for Kyler Murray and Kliff Kingsbury in the preseason. And I understand why some fans and why people in the media would have concerns about what's going to happen in the regular season.
I'm not going to bury him just yet, but you brought up Texas Tech. I mean, when you're 35 and 40, you have 6 seasons there, you have 2 winning seasons, 2 winning records. People are going to question you. And the comment he made yesterday about his offense, I think that leads to more questions about whether he can handle being a head coach. Because why do you have to come out and say that? You don't need to come out and, first of all, you guys know, you don't show everything in the preseason.
Right.
But secondly, why do you have to come out and even say it? If you want to be deceptive a bit, even though teams know you're not showing your full hand, let them think, this is all we got.
Right.
You don't have to come out and say, wait till the regular season starts. We're going to show you everything. So that's just another red flag to say, okay, is he going to be able to make the transition? I even say make the transition. He didn't really make the transition in college. So is he going to do it in the NFL?
How do you think Kingsbury will fare as a head coach in the NFL?
Well, this is what I know. I'm pulling for any time the NFL, I mean, the owners, man, they old group of old men, like, they select their coaches almost all the same way. I'm always looking for them to go outside the box, general manager and head coach, to give some other people chances at the highest level. But my concern is you facing Pete Carroll with that defense, Bobby Wagner and them, twice a year. You facing San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan. They got a 5-man rotation of 5 first-round picks. That's their defensive front. And you got Aaron Donald coming off 20 sacks, the best defender we have. You got to play them twice. So I know this. When Randy Moss, when we drafted him, Dennis Green told me, Cris, I need you to make him successful as soon as possible. Me and Brian Billick came up with 3 routes he going to run. He going to run a stop, run a slant, and run a takeoff. That was it for the first few games of the season. That's all he needed to know, because players respond when you make them successful. So now the coach set these guys up to fail. He think that offensive line is getting ready to go to week number 1 and be like, you know something, we're ready, coach. No. If you're going to do that, run the ball 50 times. And that be your change of pace. So, you know something, we're going to have some more fun. We're going to throw it once we get to the regular season. But you got to make players play with confidence. That's how you play fast, and that's what players want. And Kingsbury has not done that. So for me, in that division, it's going to be tough. But the general manager, Steve Keim, that's his pick. He drafted Rosen last year. His whole job and his coaching staff is dependent on this working.
No, you're absolutely right. Steve Keim has got a lot on the line because he hired and fired Steve Wilks after 1 year and decided he was going to go with the Kliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray experiment. But the one thing I'll say about Kliff Kingsbury coming out and not showing a lot in the preseason, at some point, you're going to have to work on those concepts that you're trying to implement in the regular season. before we get to the regular season and the games start to count.
Can't work on them in practice.
You can't work on them in practice in game tempo. It's different when you're talking about going against somebody else other than the guys that are on your team. And so, to me, there's a little bit of flaws in his logic and thinking in terms of not showing things in the preseason, just because you don't want the first time that those guys that you're relying on when you get to the regular season to operate your systems against real game tempo against other people. That, to me, doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Will they surpass last year's 3 wins?
Ooh. I'll give them 4 wins. I'll give them 4 wins, but that quarterback's going to get hit, and he's going to get hit a lot.
All right, coming up. Will the Cowboys defense be the reason they make a Super Bowl run?
Me with that one.
That's next on First Things First. I thought we were going to have a quick draw.
I thought I was getting all layups. Oh, man, we had a nice layup line, nice rotation. Man, you told me to do it.
Back here on First Things First, and we are going viral. Check out world champion soccer star Carly Lloyd at an Eagles-Ravens joint practice yesterday, nailing a 55-yard field goal with ease between the skinny uprights. And guys, Lloyd is in Philadelphia preparing with the U.S. women's national team, who will take on Portugal at Financial Field on August 29th at 7 Eastern on FS1 and the Fox Sports app. But what did you think of that kick?
Oh, no. She's the real deal. She's a big-time athlete from South Jersey. She's an Eagles fan. Even when they won the World Cup, she was fly, Eagles, fly, and everything. So she's been a lifelong Eagles fan. The Bears, they need to do something. I don't know if she'll play for the Bears, because they might have to see the Eagles again. The Bears need a kicker. That's the only weak spot they got on their team. They need a kicker. Call up Carly.
Sign her.
Yeah, looks like
she's a baller.
Yeah, my former teammate Sam Cook holding for it. Looks like she nailed that one, though. I mean, that's unbelievable.
She was pretty cool with that, too, now.
Wasn't 55. Wasn't even a big thing. All right, yesterday, the Cowboys came to a contract extension with one of their young stars, and it may not be who you're thinking at home. Middle linebacker Jalen Smith signed a 5-year, $64 million extension with $35 million guaranteed. A huge payday, especially for a guy who fell in the draft after a torn ACL and LCL. So here's what Jalen had to say about the new deal.
Well, I wanted to be a Cowboy for life. One of you guys interviewed me last week, and I was talking about that. Wanting to be a part of, the most prestigious brand in the world. I recognize that, and I'm a team guy as well. I'm a leader. Eventually I'm going to be a captain, for the Dallas Cowboys. I know it and I feel it. And really be able to exemplify greatness on and off the field. In order to win, you need guys, and I view myself as one of those guys.
Canty, how great is this for Jalen Smith?
I couldn't be happier for Jalen Smith. I mean, I know what that young man went through, because I went through a similar situation coming out of Virginia. I dislocated my knee, tore 3 of the 4 ligaments in the knee. So going through the draft process, all the question marks, all of the things that teams are asking you, the doubts that you have about your current situation, taking a step up in competition, but not knowing whether or not you'll be the same player. CC, you mentioned the nerve damage that Jalen Smith had as a result of the injury.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't know whether or not he was going to have an opportunity to play in the NFL. But seeing what he's done the last couple of years, and then, of course, the Dallas Cowboys pairing him with Leighton Vander Esch, they have one of the best, if not the best, off-the-ball linebacker tandem in the National Football League. Last year, the 2 of those guys combined for 261 tackles. I mean, that was lights out. You saw what he did in that Thursday night game against the New Orleans Saints, the versatility that he allows you to have, especially matching up with athletic running backs out of the backfield as receivers. I mean, Jalen Smith allowed you to do a lot of different things. He gives a tremendous amount of flexibility to their defensive coordinator, Rod Marinelli, in terms of how they like to do things. He's a good off-the-ball blitzer, getting into the backfield, being able to get to the quarterback. There really isn't anything that he can't do from the linebacker position that you would want in today's game. Like, he is a complete linebacker. You can leave him on the field all 3 downs. I can't say enough about the player, Jalen Smith, but he's an even better person.
I agree with everything you said, and I know he spoke from the heart, but it also looked like he could have got talking points from Jerry Jones in a message to Ezekiel Elliott, because everything he said, I wanted to be a part of the Cowboys brand. I want to be a part of this franchise. I'm a team guy. you need guys to win. Like everything he said, Jerry Jones, and again, I know he spoke from the heart. I don't think Jerry told him what to say, but that's what Jerry wants to hear when you've got your best player, Ezekiel Elliott, sitting out, for these other reasons. So I think that's just a little side part of that as well.
When you're playing in the league, you have a salary cap. Right now, $178 million, almost $180 million. You need about 5 to 8 guys as your core guys. Guys going to be with you 6 to 10 years. They're going to be Pro Bowl players, but they're going to be the voice of the coaching staff, of ownership. So Jalen Smith, that's who he is. That's who the person he is. That's who he was at Notre Dame. That's why he led them into that national championship game. That's who the person is. One of the sad things that I encounter about the league is that we do all these shows on all the saucy stuff, on all the guys' questionable character. Are they good teammates? Are they good role models? Or, man, should this guy be making this type of money? We won't be able to do a bunch of sound bites on him because people won't want to hear that. It won't be clickbait. It won't sell newspapers. But the National Football League is made up of a bunch of guys just like that. Hardworking, smart. He's the middle linebacker. He is the quarterback of the defense. He sounds like a quarterback. I want to be team captain one day. It's important to me to have that C on my chest. So that means my character, how I am on and off the field, it becomes paramount. My decision-making is based on what I want to do. So Jerry, man, he's always tried to have a core group of guys. And as you can see, any team that's going to win, they're going to have a nucleus of guys that decide we're going to go forward. That's what they did in Seattle with their guys, Bobby Wagner, Sherm, all those guys. And any other team that wins in New England, they've had a core group of guys, Gronk, Edelman, a couple of those offensive linemen, a couple of guys on the defensive front. This is a guy, but we need more sound bites because we got a bunch of guys in NFL locker rooms sound like that guy. And we need more of it. I'm glad he got paid.
I'm glad he got paid, too. And you heard him at the podium. He said he wanted Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones to get the return on the $4.5 million investment they made when he was drafted in the second round. See, to me, that guy having that kind of attitude, those are the players that you want to empower. And CC, you mentioned this when it came to the Antonio Brown situation about Mike Mayock making the decision to pay him and the Raiders organization not making the decision to pay Amari Cooper and Khalil Mack. Yeah. You send a message to the guys in your locker room. I think that Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones sent the message to the guys in their locker room. This is who we want. This is who we want to be as a team. This is how we handle contract negotiations. And so you reward a guy that comes in there and he works hard. Mm-hmm. They knew that they were going to have to pay Jalen Smith at some point. Mm-hmm. They probably could have pushed it off till after the season. But guess what? They took care of him now because they wanted to send that message. And Jalen Smith is a hard worker. Another thing that we don't talk about a lot with this Dallas Cowboys team is that defensive side of the ball. I mean, everybody pays attention to the triplets, Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, Ezekiel Elliott. But that's a team that's led by their defense, and we saw that at several different points last year. But I mean, throughout the last 3 seasons in the Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott era, this is a defense that's been in the top 10 in yards and or points. And that's a defense that's always out there setting the tone. They complement very much so what they do on the offensive side of the ball with that run game. So, I mean, a lot of people got to pay attention to the Dallas Cowboys and how they plan on winning games. Their formula for success is being able to play ball control on offense and being able to shut people down on defense. Signing Jalen Smith and making sure you have him for the foreseeable future is going to allow you to continue that model.
Yeah, with that being said, Broussard, could the Cowboys' defense be their biggest strength?
Yeah, I think it will. I mean, you mentioned the 2 linebackers with Smith and Van Der Esch. I mean, you got Byron Jones on the outside. Like, it's certainly, I've been saying, I think they're going to start the season without Zeke, unless he just decides to take less money. And so until he gets back, I think the offense will be able to function and function fairly well without him. But certainly until he's back, the defense is going to be the strength of that team.
The defense is, they're matted together. Because that defense is not affected because they're a little undersized. Undersized defenses, they got to play less than 30 minutes so they can play quick, so they can get off the mark. Last season, that offense held the ball in 8 games more than 30 minutes. In those 8 games, they're undefeated. Mm-hmm. So to me, they're both very, very important. Your conversation about we need to put more optics on that defense, that is true because they do have star players and they do have a lot of quality players like Jalen. And there's no championships in Dallas unless that defense is a top 10 defense.
All right, coming up, will Tom Brady's newest weapon be just what he needs as he looks for a 7th Super Bowl ring? That's next on First Things First. We'll get to Tom Brady in a second, but first, Braves Marlins. Danny I can't get this yet. Echeverria. Goodness.
Yep.
But nice diving stop at second. And
great positioning, too. He was already cheating up the middle. Great throw.
Echeverria's always had a really good glove. Always had a good glove.
You're just rubbing it in that you're saying Echeverria.
No, I'm just saying.
Cleveland Browns making headlines, but also making plays. Baker Mayfield throws over the middle, picked off, though, by J.T. Hassel.
Yeah.
Nice. Was it, though?
Did that ball hit the ground?
They'll let you have that in practice.
Right, you'll get it in practice.
They'll put that in the replay.
Yeah. I talked to Daniel Jones yesterday. He said Baker Mayfield sucked. I was kidding. I wasn't working yesterday.
Staying in Ohio.
I got a source. It was the streets.
Hilliard Bradley High School. Tayshawn Mayfield. Great one-handed catch.
Oh, let's go, Tayshawn. That high school right there, Hilliard, it's right outside of Columbus, Ohio. There's a number of guys that play there for the Buckeyes. So good catch. No Buckeye coaches are watching. Maybe it might be a future.
All right.
Check, dude. Dude got gloves on, and he got a pair of gloves in his backside. Them is rich people problems there, man.
He's just doing that for the swag.
Man, that's rich people probably got 2 gloves.
On to the Patriots. Yesterday, 4-time Pro Bowler Demaryius Thomas was activated from the PUP list after practicing with the Patriots for the first time. So in the last week, New England has gotten back Julian Edelman, Josh Gordon, and Thomas. So, Canty, have the Pats' wideouts gone from a weakness to now a strength?
Well, I think their receiving core is getting stronger. I'm not at the point where I'm ready to say it's a strength yet, just because there's so many question marks. Demaryius Thomas with his health, N'Keal Harry, he's a rookie and experienced, and then, of course, Josh Gordon, we don't know if he's going to be able to stay in the right headspace to be available to the club for the entire year. But that being said, I mean, you do like the fact that Tom Brady doesn't have to throw to undrafted receivers in practice now. So I think you have to count that as a win. But I think this can be a group that develops into one of those groups that's able to be dynamic. I think they all have a little something different that they bring to the table. And so I think the skill sets have the opportunity to be complementary to one another. You got a big body receiver on the outside with Josh Gordon. You have the potential to have another big body guy in Demaryius Thomas who can be a solid number 2. And then, of course, you got Julian Edelman, who's a smaller guy, but he works in the slot, so he's going to have more space. So I'm just thinking about the different machinations that you can have with that receiving core and the flexibility that that's going to give Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels from a game planning standpoint. But I think we still have to take a wait-and-see approach. But the one thing I will say about DT, I'm really surprised that he's available this quickly coming off of the Achilles injury that he had in the middle of last season. You mentioned Emmanuel Sanders and him making his debut in the preseason against the 49ers this past Monday. The guys are coming back from Achilles injuries quicker and quicker. It's amazing the advancements in sports medicine. But really excited about what this group can be, and I'm happy for Demaryius Thomas.
Look, I still think they're going to rely heavily on the run game. Not just Sony Michel running the ball, but passing to him out of the backfield. However, if available and healthy, from Josh Gordon to DT, yeah, their receivers look good, because I do like Harry. We'll see how quickly he can become effective in the NFL, but I like him a lot. We know what Julian Edelman's going to give you. And Thomas, I mean, just 2 years ago, he was getting 140 targets. So this is a guy, I know he's 31 years old. Some people think he's a little long in the tooth, but I think he still can be effective if he's healthy. And then, of course, you got Josh Gordon if he's there. So I think they're going to like we've seen them rely on the tight end so much on the past few years. But now I think that receiving game is going to rely more on the receivers, and I think that's going to be, you know their coaching staff is going to adjust to that. So I think that's going to be a strength for them.
Yeah, let's go back to how they finished last season. They were 14-2 last year when they ran the ball more than 20 times, which included the playoffs. They become a much more physical team. Their best units are their offensive line and their defense. Their defensive secondary, I believe, is the best unit that they have in football. I believe they'll be top 5 in scoring. So Belichick is into variations of winning or playing good football. And if you take away their running game offensively, they would have to throw it to be able to beat you. So he likes to be able to have a number of different ways to go about doing business. If he can do business his way, he's going to run the football, play behind that offensive line, keep the pressure off of Brady, especially earlier in the season, and allow him to be fresher as they try to make another Super Bowl run. But I am concerned about the wide receivers. I'm concerned about Demaryius because he was a once explosive. He's a big guy, man. 6'4 and a half, 6'5 guy, 220 pounds. It's different than Emmanuel Sanders. Undersized, little quick guy, in-space guy. So how they come back, can he post up on those routes off that Achilles? You make a great point. Sports right now and sports medicine is making so many advances that I expect athletes to come back quicker than ever before, and especially from Achilles. But the wild card is Josh Gordon. And anyone who knows me knows my history. September 21st, be 29 years, I haven't had a drink. And there's a reason why. Because my life was unmanageable, and Buddy Ryan, Kustok, looked me right in my face and told me he couldn't depend on me. Broke my heart. Cut me from the team. And ever since then, it's been my goal. In everything that I do, I'm going to be early, I'm going to be dependable, and anyone that's associated with me, it will be about good stuff. And I have fought that every day of my life, not trying to be late, trying to be dependable. And Josh Gordon has been everything but that. I'm pulling for him, but we've never had a guy suspended 6 times. Suspended. I got suspended once for a month. And then the collective bargaining agreement, you could be suspended in the offseason. So a lot of people didn't know. But I was on my final strike. And Buddy Ryan wouldn't take a chance, even with my final strike. Dude has had his final strike 5 times. So for me, I mean, you guys are telling me to lose everything that I stand for to believe it's going to be successful. Having a locker to Tom Brady don't mean jack, man. Mm-hmm. If I want to get high, everything in his life, his family, his coaches, high school coaches said this about him. All his college coaches, every school he ever went to, every pro team he's ever been on. I'm just about the facts, man. I watched TV yesterday and it made me sick to my stomach. Because people are, look, this dude's got a disease, man. I got it. It's called alcoholism, man. And you know when we get over it? Because I heard you say this, and you my guy, man. I heard you say this yesterday. Can he get over it? We get over this, man, when we get in the grave, man. When somebody throw dirt on us, that's when we got it handled. Not until then. There ain't no cure for this. Am I pulling for him? Are Belichick and the organization, are they pulling? Yes, but I have never seen Bill Belichick give a guy as many chances as Josh has. So, yes, I'm pulling for him. But the number one way to predict future behavior is past behavior. I'm pulling for him. I am pulling for him. And if he is healthy, this is Super Bowl champ right here. Tom Brady going to win Super Bowl number 7 if Josh Gordon. He is that kind of good. He's one of the few guys I could ever see walk off the street, walk into an NFL game and be like, there's not 2 better athletes on the field than him. Mm-hmm. He's that kind of special. So I'm pulling for him. I am.
Is there anything they can do beyond what they've already done to help him, or is this just something he's going to have to?
It's beyond that, man. When you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, man, I got sick and tired of walking in and out of crack houses. I got sick and tired of my mama being afraid that I was going to die. That's when you give it up, man. It ain't about no one else, man. This is internal. Josh, the only one can do something for this. There ain't no pill. There ain't no magic words to say. It's step by step, man. 24 hours at a time, put one foot in front of the other and believing that every day, man, could be a disaster. See, I wake up every day knowing my life could be ruined because of this disease I have. I never drop my guard. So I'm pulling for him because the league don't have no good stories. And the league has a soft spot for him. If you guys told me, hey, man, we worked out the collective bargaining agreement, there wasn't no more drug testing this year, I'd be like, okay, we straight. They taking weed out of it? Okay, we straight. Because that's one of his many problems, but that's his biggest issue. I would be fine with it. And I believe ultimately, I've told Roger this, you need to take the marijuana testing out of the NFL because you're not helping careers, you're ending careers. So I'm pulling for the guy. I can't pull for a person more than the way I pull for Josh.
Thank you, C, for sharing. We appreciate that. We've got more First Things First after this. Back here in First Things First, and we're going viral. Patrick Mahomes looking to become just the 4th player to ever repeat as MVP. So who better to learn from than someone who's already done it? With Brett Favre making an appearance at Chiefs practice. Guys, you see similarities between these two?
Well, playing for Andy Reid, Brett Favre, man, he's the reason why Andy lost his hair. So a lot of times he used to tell Brett, don't throw that, and Brett used to throw it in there. So the characteristics, how they'll take chances, arm strength, you can see that around the same size, but big-time arm, very, very similar, Brett Favre and Patty Mahomes. And my guy Peter King there, I talked to him last night and got a preview of the NFL. Peter King said last night, Patty Mahomes is so good, he could throw for 6,000 yards.
6,000.
That's what he said.
So people are saying that he's going to regress. Peter King is saying he's going to go up.
That's what I was talking to him. I was like, Peter, I was saying 4,000 and come back. So Peter said, Chris, he is that. This is his 33rd year covering the NFL. He said, what was the most impressive thing? That was one of the things in Kansas City.
I'll say this, CC. I don't know if they're building a wide receiver core or a track team out there with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, adding Mecole Hardman, Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill, Demarcus Robinson. I think they're going to go out there and do the 4x1 relay. That's what it seems like. I mean, they got a quarterback with the arm talent, but then having the complementary wide receivers, guys that can stretch the field, I think you're only going to see Pat Mahomes continue to ascend as a player.
More than 50 touchdowns?
No, they're going to come back down to earth on that one. Yeah.
40?
Yeah, let's go.
I got a bet with Rob Parker.
Let's go 42 touchdowns.
42.
Right. Okay, I like it.
Still a lot of touchdowns. Everybody else was in the 30s last year.
Time for some
you're going to have a hard time collecting from Detroit. Them people from Detroit ain't the most honest people.
Jerry Jones joked around by saying Zeke who to media members. Zeke and his agent reportedly did not take too kindly to those comments. Jerry responded and said he's earned the right to joke about Zeke. So, Broussard, what do you make of all this?
Look, I get Zeke. He's in a fragile situation, and I get him being overly sensitive because his name's not on the dotted line of a new contract, and he's in that position at running back where, as great as he is, the collective bargaining agreement does you in. So I understand his sensitivity, but Jerry has earned that right because he stuck by Zeke through all his off-the-field transgressions, and he stuck by other players. So Jerry Jones is a great owner for players, and so, yeah, he has earned that right.
Jerry's always taking care of his players, and the star players love him. Mike Irvin, there's a reason why he lives in Dallas. Deion Sanders, even this short time, still lives in Dallas. Troy Aikman lives in the Dallas area for a reason.
Sticking with the Cowboys, Dallas signed linebacker Jalen Smith to a 5-year, $64 million extension with $35.5 million guaranteed. Smith is now the third highest paid middle linebacker behind C.J. Mosley and Bobby Wagner. So, Canty, what do you make of this deal?
I'm happy for Jalen Smith to deal with the adversity of coming off a devastating injury to end his collegiate career and then not being able to play his entire rookie career. I mean, there was a little bit of doubt in there, but him being able to overcome that, continuing to work past it, now that he's on the field with Leighton Vander Esch, he's a part of one of the best off-the-ball linebacker tandems in the National Football League. I couldn't be more excited for Jalen Smith getting that financial security that every player wants.
And he's trying to be a team player. He's taking less than market value if he goes out there because he wants to stay in Dallas. His sound bites from I want to be a team captain, but taking less, that's part of trying to put together a good team. There are going to be guys to be able to keep these young players together. You're going to take a little bit less to be able to stay there in Dallas. He did the smart thing by getting that deal signed.
Last season, Andrew Luck played all 16 games, but this year that looks to be in jeopardy. Luck will not practice with the team this week, and his odds of playing in Week 1 against the Chargers are reportedly fading. So, is it time to officially be worried about Luck?
Oh, no, you need to be worried. When they talk about they had those scans and went back to the injury happened in April, when you can't practice in the NFL, when you've had all this time between injuries to be able to get it right, no, I'm very concerned. I think it's safe to say he will not start 16 games during the regular season. And don't be fooled by the quick movement there in the pocket. Right. His biggest problem is when he gets on the run, moving laterally, he has problem with the foot as far as it being stable. So that's the reason why he's not practicing. I'm very concerned. I might pick the Colts as my Super Bowl if Andrew Luck was healthy and had not missed all camp.
Yeah, I'm with you there, CC. One thing that's interesting to me is Frank Reich keeps saying pain threshold. Now, I don't know if does he feel like he can go out there and play if he can handle the pain? You know, it doesn't seem that way since you've been out since April. You've only practiced 3 times in training camp, but it's just interesting that I keep hearing that from Frank Wright.
Well, I think they're going to take a conservative approach because they got a capable backup in Jacoby Brissett. He looked good in week 2 of the preseason against the Browns. He was 8 for 10, 100 yards passing, including a nice touchdown toss to Eric Ebron. So I think as long as Andrew Luck doesn't miss a big portion of the season, this team will be fine, but they'll play it conservative in the beginning.
This preseason, we've talked about the off-the-field drama surrounding Antonio Brown, from the hot air balloon to the helmet saga to the frostbite on his feet. But now he's back with the team, has a certified helmet, and his head coach John Gruden said he's ready to go. Broussard, is the bigger story of AB's career his greatness on the field or his drama off of it?
Look, he's great. He is fantastic, but I think it's the drama. I mean, Randy Moss, you know how great, everybody knows how great Randy Moss was. But when I think of Randy Moss, and I think about how great he was and how fast and tall and everything, but I also think about all the perception, the issues that he had as well. You know, when I think of Terrell Owens, we know, I mean, that's the whole Hall of Fame thing. We think of the other issues. And Antonio Brown now has 3 incidents off the field that are unprecedented. We talked about it in the break, the Facebook Live. We couldn't think of another, not only NFL player, but professional athlete in football or basketball or baseball who has had an incident like that. And it's the social media era, and still he's the only one that's done something like that. Facebook Live and his team. The helmet. That's like, we joked about Torrey Holt, his rant yesterday. It was like Allen Iverson in the practice thing. But it was. It was like, it's a helmet. I mean, we get that you're attached to your one helmet. You might be a little superstitious, but it's a helmet. Put it on and play and make your $30 million. That's unprecedented. The feet. That's unprecedented. You know, that a player went in there and got cryotherapy and got his feet frostbitten. So you got 3 things off the field that no one else has really had happen to them in professional football. So I think right now people are going to think more about the drama. And his numbers, I'm taking nothing away from his numbers, but you guys know this. It's passing more and more and more. So the receivers' numbers, just like the quarterbacks, they're going to be better.
Yeah.
They're going to shatter, you know, the all-time greats who played in decades before. So we're going to see other receivers eventually start putting up these numbers as great as they are, because that's just the league we're playing in now.
Well, AB sure got an interesting way of showing his gratitude from an organization that was willing to give him what the Pittsburgh Steelers weren't willing to give him, which was a contract extension with guaranteed money on that deal. That's the thing that's most surprising about this. Him not being in training camp, missing a significant portion because of the helmet agreements. Like, I get that he would have been unavailable to practice because of the feet, but he still could have been in the building contributing. You got a relatively young group of players in that locker room, and AB's been in the league for a while now. There's a lot of things that he can teach those guys. There's some wisdom to impart, but AB, again, is making it about himself, and that's probably the most frustrating part about it from John Gruden and Mike Mayock's perspective. But trying to spin this thing forward, you got to get ready for the regular season. You got to get your quarterback, Derek Carr, ready to go. And that's supposed to be his primary receiver, so you wonder how that chemistry, how that rapport is going to be, especially early on. This is a big season for Derek Carr. The Oakland Raiders are trying to answer questions about whether or not they got their quarterback before they moved to Vegas. Acquiring Antonio Brown was going to be a part of trying to figure out whether or not Derek Carr is going to be their guy moving forward. They did a lot of things on the offensive side of the ball to try to support their quarterback. They drafted Josh Jacobs in the first round. They went out and signed Trent Brown, the left tackle from the New England Patriots. They signed Tyrell Williams from the Chargers. They are surrounding Derek Carr with the supporting cast that he's going to need in order to be a successful quarterback. Taking away his primary option, his number one weapon, that's going to hurt. And so I think that he's taking away from the overall objective and the motivation from Mike Mayock and why they went out and got him from the Steelers. I just think that this is a bizarre situation. You don't hear about a player that's willing to compromise $30 million in guaranteed money over a helmet.
Right, back to your point. And I think also that from a public standpoint, I talked to someone this weekend, one of AB's trainers, And the cryotherapy thing was a mistake. And I believe that AB will bring litigation against that company because they gave him the wrong advice. He thought that the reason why he didn't have on something on protection on his feet was because for some type of recovery that they were trying to do. He did have something on his hands. He did think that he should have something on his feet and was surprised that they didn't put anything on his feet. So that right there will be played out from a litigation standpoint. Legacy, it depends on what you want your legacy to be. To me, his legacy, he wants to be, I made a lot of money, one of the most popular people on social media. So if that is your legacy, then his legacy's not going to be hurt. He's going to make a lot of money. He's going to continue to make plays. The reason why Terrell Owens and what you brought up, it prevented him from being a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's only a handful of guys of that. So it did hurt Terrell Owens' legacy. Randy Moss, it didn't hurt his. Randy Moss was a first ballot Hall of Famer and is currently on TV, and that you could see that Randy has done a number of things from his image standpoint. So it depends on what you want your legacy to be. If you're about clicks, if you're about likes, if you're about just making money, then no, he didn't hurt his legacy. But from a football standpoint, this dude is ridiculous. And I can take the last 5 or 6 years of his career and match it only against really one person, and that's against Jerry Rice. This guy is on target to be a top 5 NFL receiver of all time if he's able to finish his career on and off the field. So it will, because we have seen the voters in the Hall of Fame. They have taken a note. Because football is a team sport, how you treat your teammates, how you treat your coaches, they will hold that against you as far as the Hall. But if you're just trying to make money and trying to do what his brand is, call God. I mean, I don't know why he's the only one can call God. But to his brand is booming, as he would say it.
No, his brand is booming. But, yeah, when you ask the question of whether or not all of this is going to affect his legacy, I believe it will. See, I mean, you brought up Terrell Owens and you brought up Randy Moss. I think the difference between those two careers was at one point you saw that Randy Moss put aside the individual stuff and wanted to go out there and help his team win.
Yeah, you saw the growth.
When he went to the New England Patriots,
yes,
you saw the growth. It became about trying to help the team accomplish the ultimate goal, not necessarily what was in his own best interest. With Terrell Owens, you didn't see that development. And I love T.O., my former teammate down there with the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, he had a lot of respect from guys in that locker room, but he also rubbed some guys in that locker room the wrong way, and it's been like that for him at every single stop. At some point, players, fans, media, coaches, they need to see you mature and recognize that you have the opportunity to be a part of something special in the National Football League, and it's not just about you. It has to be about your teammates and being willing to sacrifice in order to accomplish the ultimate goal.
Do you believe his production this season will outweigh the distractions?
I mean, he's going to put up his numbers. I don't think they're going to be very good. So he's going to put up great numbers on a bad team, and I think he's going to still have distractions. So, yeah, he'll still be, I think overall the main attention he'll get will be distractions, because at some point we're not going to pay as much attention to the Oakland Raiders, because I think they're going to win maybe 6 games. And so because of that, the way he'll get that national attention will be from whatever distractions he brings.
All right, coming up, will Baker's trash talking backfire on him this season? We'll discuss that next on First Things First. We are back here on First Things First, and we're talking Baker Mayfield. He had some spicy comments about number 6 overall pick and new Giants quarterback Daniel Jones. In an interview with GQ, Baker said, quote, "I cannot believe the Giants took Daniel Jones. Blows my mind. Some people overthink it. That's where people go wrong. They forget you've got to win." After these comments were released, Baker downplayed them on the gram, saying, quote, "This is not what I said, just so we're clear. I also said I was surprised I got drafted number 1, then was talking about the flaws in evaluating quarterbacks, where I brought up winning being important. Reporters and media will do anything to come up with clickbait story. Heard nothing but good things and wish nothing but the best for Daniel." So, Canty, will Baker back up all of his trash talk on the field this year?
Well, here's the thing. With Baker Mayfield, one of the things that he has going for him is that he hasn't been afraid to be himself. He's unapologetically, the guy that we've seen in front of the cameras or, doing sit-down interviews. He's who he is. And today, if you have that level of authenticity, it gives you a tremendous amount of credibility, especially in an NFL locker room, because that's a man's game out there. And so his teammates respect him. But I think Baker Mayfield has to understand, along with the platform of being a quarterback and being a team leader, comes a responsibility. And so when you saw the context that the words that he had were in that GQ article, I think that it kind of came across as if he was hating on Daniel Jones, and that's why he put that quasi-retraction out there on social media. I think Baker Mayfield was trying to walk it back a little bit, trying to cushion the blow, because it came out a little bit rough. But I have no doubt that that is exactly what he said to that reporter, Clay Skipper from GQ. I think those were his exact words. I just didn't think it would come across the way that it did when it got a hold into the national media. And so I think this is a lesson for Baker Mayfield to learn moving forward, that you have to be careful in the way that you say things. And you also have to be careful about talking about other guys in the National Football League in a negative light.
I think he will be able to live up to the hype because, to your point, this is who he's been. He's used to the pressure. Like, a lot of people would say, he's just hyping more and more pressure upon himself. Now the bullseye is going to be on you. People are going to want to see how well you play. But that's been his whole life. You know, he's always had the doubters, the haters, the naysayers that say he can't get it done. And he may not only be able to survive in that climate, he may actually thrive off of it because that's what he's used to. David Griffin was the GM with the Cavs, now with the Pelicans. He would always say when the Cavaliers with LeBron would have all these issues and drama, he said, LeBron loves that. That's what he thrives under. And maybe Baker's that type of guy. At least that's what it's been so far. And then you throw in the weapons. I mean, OBJ and Jarvis Landry and Nick Chubb in the backfield. So I do think that he's going to be able to live up to the hype. I've picked him as a wild card in the AFC, and ultimately that's what people are going to look at. Does he get them into the playoffs?
Yeah, Cleveland has a chance to have a very good season. Baker Mayfield should be an MVP candidate. But if he was trying to learn something in his retraction, he should learn this. Don't evaluate NFL players, all right? We are in a very, very special fraternity. It's our 100th season. We're celebrating. There's only been 22,000 men that have ever played this game. I know it seems like it's more than that, but it's only a small amount of people that have ever played in the league, and it's a very, very special fraternity, just like you have your position fraternities. The quarterbacks, they're a fraternity. They not going to speak bad on each other. So moving forward, he shouldn't be evaluating NFL players unless he says, out of respect, because this guy is elite. If you're in the league, you're an elite player.
Yes.
All right? Regardless of, as a fan, you think, oh, that guy's a bum and everything. Well, let me tell you something, bum. All right? He's one of the best bums there is in the world because he's playing in the NFL. And realize that unless you're saying things like Belichick and Brady, everyone to them is good or great. Because as an NFL player, you don't watch a lot of NFL games. You just watch tape of your opponent, and you see a part of the league. So you don't understand the league. I made a mistake as a player. Jerry Rice and the wide receiving core, they were carving us up on a Monday night. After the game, some of the receivers we didn't know, it happened to be J.J. Stokes and a guy named Terrell Owens. He wasn't a Hall of Famer then. I told the reporters we should have won that game because we shut Jerry down late. We can't allow the other guys to beat us. The other guy, Terrell, that was 30-something years ago. He still won't speak to me today. Now, I probably gained something in life by him not doing that, but it's a real thing. And if you can avoid that, realizing the fraternity is small, that's what Baker should be doing.
You mentioned him being or should be a potential in the MVP conversation. Kente, I want to ask you, what do you see in him, the jumps that he can make, whether it's on the field, whether it's personality? We know how dynamic he is as a leader, that would put him in that category this season.
Well, I mean, when he jumped on the scene last year, when he came in at halftime of that Jets game on Thursday night, you saw there was a difference in terms of the overall arm talent that he had and his ability to be accurate with the football as opposed to what they had in their starting quarterback at the time in Tyrod Taylor. So there's a clear difference in terms of the talent level with Baker Mayfield than the average NFL quarterback. And then you think about the complement of skill position players that he has to work with. I'm excited about what Baker Mayfield can be. But in order to take that jump as a team and to take that jump as an individual, you have to improve your overall knowledge base. So there's always something to learn, but then also trying to be more consistent. One of the things with young players you recognize around the National Football League, they have the tendency to be inconsistent.
Yes.
And so they have to continue to try to figure out what's the formula for success week in, week out. How can I replicate the good things that I'm doing or the good things that I've shown in my rookie season? So I think that's how Baker Mayfield takes that next step. And if he does, I believe this Cleveland Browns organization will take that next step, and they'll go from a team that had 7 wins last year to a team that's contending for a playoff spot at the end of the season. So I do expect them to be in the mix in the AFC North, and I do think that they'll have the potential to be a wild card team when it's all said and done.
I think Baker Mayfield, because I think he's going to play good football. They got an outstanding football team. They got special guys at every level, and I believe that Baker being the leader of that, but create an environment there in Cleveland that no one else in the NFL wants to come to Cleveland. They got you guaranteed 8 games. Man, Cleveland used to be one of the worst places to play. Not only the field, the dog pound. Man, you're talking about a huge home field advantage. I want Baker to play with the type of energy that he played with in college, what we've seen. Because when you go on the road, you go to places like New England, Pittsburgh, you can't play with that type of energy because the crowd is against you. So I want Baker to understand that, create an environment there in Cleveland where they have a decisive home field advantage. If they go 7-1 at home, bruh, they got 8 other games. If they split the other games, that's how you get to 11 games. But if they only go 5-3 and then you split, now you're at 9-7. Make Cleveland your home advantage. The dog pound, have the dog pound out in force. Them 8 games, make it 7-1. Teams don't want to go to Cleveland and play. Make somebody come there in the playoffs in January and play. That's how this year can be special for them.
And he's going to have to show he can beat good teams because we know they had 7 wins. That's
Great
impressive,
point.
right? Because the last 2 years they had 1. But they didn't beat very good teams last year.
They beat one playoff team last year. That was the Ravens.
So there you go. So that's what the next step is. Show you can beat these good teams. And again, he can have a nice individual season. And if they don't make the playoffs, or if they're not in the playoff hunt at least, then he's going to get criticized even if he puts up big numbers.
All right, coming up, is it starting to look like we won't see Zeke this season? We'll discuss that next. First things first. All right, it's time for us now to go viral. Tom Brady's career has been one highlight reel after the next, except for his drop pass in Super Bowl 52, which I'm sure he wishes he could have back. But Pats fans and Brady fantasy football owners shouldn't panic, with TB12 tweeting a picture of him making a catch and the caption, "I know your drafts are coming up, so I need to let all of you know I'm a PPR threat now." Following that up with, "We're in the trust tree here. No Super Bowl 52 jokes." That's great.
Look how Brady, in this picture, though, the ball, he kept it in front of him. The pass that he threw, he didn't go wide enough. He got too shallow of an angle, and the ball went over his eye. When the ball goes over your eye, your dominant eye won't pick it up until it gets over here. That's why he dropped that ball. On the reenactment, you see the ball's in front of him. The one in the game, the ball came right over in his blind spot. Watch it come right over his eye. Watch his left eye right there. He can't see it, and then it surprises him. The ball's over here. Yes. Come see me, Tom. I got one way to help Tom Brady. I'm happy.
She said he made his wife Giselle right, because after we beat him in Super Bowl 46, she said her husband couldn't throw it and catch it. I guess she proved it right back there in Super Bowl 52, because he can't catch.
Yeah, I think she should dump him if he can't catch like that. Giselle, you deserve someone who can really catch. Ooh, I used to be nice with these.
All right, on to the Cowboys. After rookie running back Tony Pollard had a strong preseason showing.
My wife was working out, so I'm straight.
I was going to say, you're going to have Tom call me if she does that. Jerry Jones joked around by saying Zeke who to media members. Zeke and his agent reportedly did not take too kindly to this. Here's what Jerry had to say when asked about Zeke feeling disrespected.
I've earned the right with Zeke to joke. Period.
Right.
I've earned it.
So, have you guys had any conversations since then at all?
No. But let me be real clear about it. I've earned that right to joke.
Whew. All right, Jerry. Broussard, do you think that Zeke's holdout lasts into the season?
I do. And I've been saying this since it began. I think that, because I tried to look at it objectively, I'm pulling for Zeke because I just hate the way the system is set up for the running backs. Because you can basically keep a running back throughout his entire prime now and him not really get that big payday, okay? But looking at it objectively, if I'm Jerry Jones and I don't want to set the market as they've said, then I am willing, as he did with Emmitt Smith. It didn't work out with Emmitt Smith as far as the money. You know, they lost the first 2 games, 93 had to pay him. But I would be willing to go into the first few games. And look, I know they're division games and I know they're rivals. But the Giants, the Redskins, and the Dolphins aren't expected to be very good teams. And I'm not saying I'd let it drag out 3 weeks, but I'm willing to go into that first game thinking I can beat them without Zeke, liking what I've seen from Tony Pollard, liking the other backs I have, Alfred Morris and so on. I'm willing to try that game and see how it goes. Even if I beat the Giants, but I can't run the ball, I get stuffed in the run game, then I'm probably going back to Zeke even though we won and getting him back in the fold. But Jerry said it a week or 2 ago. The regular season is when the leverage comes, one way or the other.
Yes.
It's either going to swing heavily toward the Cowboys or it's going to swing heavily toward Zeke. So I do think it goes into the first, second, maybe third week of the season.
I think because of the demands, Ezekiel Elliott has made it clear he wants to reset the market. Jerry is not only looking at this contract, but Jerry, him and his son Steven said, we have a number of offers out there that are very competitive. That's how Jalen, they didn't just start negotiating with Jalen. Mm-hmm. All those offers went out together. Jalen and them were able to come to a deal because Jalen, smart, said, you know something, I want to stay here. I haven't gotten paid. I'm going to get paid right now to be able to stay with this football team. Ezekiel Elliott's trying to reset the market, and because he's a running back, he's in a tough spot. With 2 years and only one player, Tyron Smith, the left tackle, who on that roster, they renegotiate his contract with 2 years left. But he gave them a very cap-friendly and team-friendly deal. Is Zeke willing to do that? Because, man, he is going to lose out because you don't advance in free agency. He can't threaten to hold out the whole season because he comes back right next year at the same spot. So it's like lost time. So for me, it's just a matter of compromise. Dak Prescott, regardless of what you think, he is getting ready to get more money than he should. He's going to get $3 to $4 more million than he should. You can't give Zeke $2 or $3 million more dollars. Amari Cooper, my man in New Orleans just got $20 million. Amari, that franchise tag is looking pretty good for him, and he's making good money now. So you can't just give Zeke that big slice of the pie, Canty, and just expect not the ramifications into the future as far as keeping this team together. And he should be concentrating on keeping this group together 2 to 3 years.
No, you're absolutely right, and I think that's why Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones have been bringing up all of the benefits that come along with playing with the Dallas Cowboys, being able to win with the Dallas Cowboys, what that means for your legacy, what that also means in terms of your ability to monetize off-the-field opportunities. But in looking at this situation and all the contracts that the Dallas Cowboys are going to negotiate, all the guys that are up, there's really only a case to be made for one guy in terms of being able to reset the market at his position, and that's Ezekiel Elliott.
I agree with you.
He is the best player on that football team, and so the idea of going into the regular season without your best player, if I was a guy in the locker room, that would worry me. But the reality is it's business. And Jerry Jones is the owner. And the owner is not going to write a check to a player until he gets good and ready to be able to do that. Now, one of the things that got lost in the comments this offseason is when Stephen Jones was asked about the Ezekiel Elliott contract, he said, yeah, we're going to get that taken care of in the next couple of years. I think that was one of those things that Rocky Arsenault and Ezekiel Elliott heard, and they said, well, wait a minute, if my guy's the best player on the team, why isn't he the priority? I think he's not the priority because Jerry Jones has got a lot of other guys in that locker room that are doing it the right way. Dak Prescott is doing it the right way. Remember when that whole national anthem controversy came up a couple of years ago? Dak Prescott got in front of the cameras and said, this team is going to stand for the national anthem, reinforcing the messaging that was coming from ownership. The quarterback position.
That's a great point right there. When you do something like that for an owner, it creates some goodwill. Let alone it being a quarterback, let alone it being we didn't spend a bunch on him. Like, this guy's going to be the face of Dallas for the next 10 years. A lot of people have not talked about that, bringing that up as far as that being a huge plus as for Dak in the relationship with Jerry.
Absolutely. CC, you know this. In the NFL locker room, the quarterback is an extension of ownership.
Yes.
I mean, he's right there with those guys. And Dak Prescott has reinforced the messaging coming from Jerry and Stephen Jones. So they are going to take care of him. They took care of Jalen Smith. He was in training camp working hard. They want to reward their players. Jerry Jones is no doubt sending a message to the rest of that locker room that this is how we're going to do business. This is how we're going to handle negotiations. We don't want guys that are going to hold out and be in Cabo working out at their agent's place. We want guys to be in here working to be a part of what we're trying to do this season. He doesn't like the fact that Zeke is trying to speed up the timeline and dictate when they're going to pay him. CB, I'm with you. I understand that there is a short shelf life for running backs in terms of being able to have top-end production and thereby have top leverage. But Zeke has got to understand that he's not bigger than the Dallas Cowboys, even though he's their best player.
When you look at what Jerry Jones has been saying, I mean, we've heard all the other comments about you don't need a league-leading rusher to win the Super Bowl, blah, blah, blah. But just recently, I mean, the praise of Dak, top-tier money he's going to get. He said none of that about Zeke. Even with Jalen Smith signing him, we saw, you mentioned Dak kind of reiterating what ownership believes. Jalen Smith did the same thing.
Great.
And I think he did it from the heart.
Yeah.
I think he said, look, I want to be a part of this Cowboys team. He took less money. Like, I think if he were a free agent in the summer, he would have got more money. Jerry said yesterday, there's less of the pie that's left. Another message to Zeke. He also said he realized we needed to keep a lot of these great young players we have together, referring to him taking less money. He said he's never missed a practice. He's never quit. He's never, been out. Like, he said, I'm telling you, it looked like it was a message to Zeke. And this is just making me more and more think if they come out there and they're 2-0 and Tony Pollard, who is not nearly as good as Ezekiel Elliott, but if he's running the football well.
This could get real ugly.
This could get real. And look, I also think, that I'm not going to act like Kellen Moore is some genius, but he is talking about trying to do some different things, letting Dak throw the ball down the field more, having more pre-snap motion. I think we know their offense has kind of been vanilla over the years. I do think they want to see, does this, make us more effective?
Does it work?
Because we got this other stuff going on too.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.